Welcome to Empower Fantastic Life. Find your power. Live without limits. So settle in. Just imagine we're sitting across from each other in a quiet, cozy cafe, grabbing a great cup of coffee, and we're about to map out something truly transformative today. We're going on a deep dive sharing session to completely redefine what it really means to lead. We're going to unpack a powerful concept that's rooted deep in European management philosophy and get into the core of a remarkable book whose title translates to Leadership Begins with You. Okay, so let's dive right into it. The core premise of our explainer today is this: if you can't manage yourself, how can you lead others? Think about that for a second. It's a pure, unvarnished truth, isn't it? It completely challenges the very foundation of how we typically view authority.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're looking at 1. The leadership illusion. 2. The inside-out ring framework. 3. Pillar 1, self-awareness. 4. Pillar 2, self-management. 5. Pillar 3, servant practice. And finally, number 6, the 1% rule. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The leadership illusion, debunking the myth of control. For the longest time, we've been sold this story that leadership is an external conquest, right? We kind of think it's all about snagging a fancy title on a business card, chasing short-term numbers, or just delegating tasks to a team. But honestly, that is a total illusion. It's literally like yelling at a plant to grow faster. True leadership isn't about controlling other people, it's about mastering yourself. Which brings us to Section 2, the inside-out ring, the ripple effect of real influence. Now, this framework completely flips traditional management right on its head. Instead of jumping straight to the outer edge, trying to figure out how to manipulate or influence a team, this European philosophy argues that leadership is actually an inward practice. It's like dropping an anchor deep within yourself that eventually creates a natural ripple effect outward. Let's look at how these ripples actually form. The 4 stages are: 1. Self-awareness. 2. Self-management. 3. Leading others. And 4. Co-creating environment. They build on each other in a very strict logical sequence. Only when those first 2 are completely locked in do you actually reach stage 3 and 4. There's no way around it. You absolutely cannot skip steps. The outer rings of influence only happen when your inner foundation is rock solid.
All right, Section 3, Pillar 1, Self-awareness, seeing your own map clearly. It's actually fascinating how many newly promoted managers instantly fixate on their team's flaws. They've got this giant magnifying glass pointed at everyone else, but they're wearing a blindfold themselves. The real starting point of leadership is turning that magnifying glass inward so you can spot your own hidden blind spots.
And this self-awareness makes all the difference, especially during a crisis. On one hand, you have reacting to short-term temptation, chasing those quick wins, cutting corners, maybe panicking under pressure. On the other hand, you have anchoring to long-term values. When your core values, things like integrity, patience, and honesty, are crystal clear to you, they act as an anchor. You can easily withstand the storm of a crisis because you know exactly what you stand for. No wavering.
But hey, knowing your values is really only half of self-awareness. The other half is identifying your emotional blind spots, figuring out your knee-jerk reflex in times of stress. Let's ground this in everyday life for a second. Picture this. You're in a meeting and a colleague suddenly takes credit for your brilliant idea. Or maybe you're driving to work, you're already running late, and somebody aggressively cuts you off in traffic. What is your immediate internal reaction? Is it a flash of blinding anger? Do you feel an urge to avoid confrontation and just shut down? Or can you actually maintain a calm, observant stillness? Recognizing that automatic reflex, that's the ultimate key to unlocking the next pillar.
So that brings us to Section 4, Pillar 2, self-management, the inner compass and discipline. Here's the absolute crucial point. Once you are aware of your triggers, once you know, okay, traffic makes me furious or stolen credit makes me retreat, the next step is taking absolute, total responsibility for your own mind and energy. You stop being a victim of your own reflexes.
And the beautiful result of taking that responsibility is emotional resilience. Let's strip away all the psychological jargon here. Emotional resilience is simply the ability to stay calm and focused when your Monday morning completely falls apart. It's acting as a stabilizing anchor. When the environment around you is in total chaos, your calm presence provides psychological safety for everyone else. They don't panic simply because you aren't panicking.
So how do we actually build this? Well, it's not through grand gestures, it's through micro habits. It's the discipline of organizing your morning mindfully. It's taking a pause before reacting. It's processing an overwhelming inbox. Think about that awful feeling of opening your email on a Monday morning to a flooded, chaotic inbox full of urgent requests.
Self-management is intentionally choosing not to let that digital chaos dictate your inner peace. You take a breath, you prioritize, and you act rather than just react.
Now, only with a solid internal foundation can we look outward. Section 5. Pillar 3. Servant practice. The power of invisible influence. Notice we definitely aren't calling it bossing people around. True authority comes from the influence of your character, not the power of your job title. When your self-leadership is internalized, you don't need to wield your title like a weapon. Your influence becomes totally invisible, yet incredibly powerful.
Because actions are always greater than words. If you expect honesty, you must first show vulnerability. Your team watches what you do. Honestly, they rarely listen to what you say. If you want a team that embraces learning and growth, you can't just mandate it from the top down. You have to visibly demonstrate your own hunger for learning. If you expect them to be honest about their mistakes, you've got to have the courage to show your own vulnerability first and admit when you're wrong.
And that leads us to the ultimate test of a secure leader, the huge contrast between hovering and micromanaging versus empowering and letting go. Think of it exactly like teaching a kid to ride a bicycle. If you run alongside them, desperately gripping the seat because you're terrified they're going to fall, they will literally never learn to balance. To truly empower them, you have to let go of the seat. You have to allow them to wobble a bit. And yeah, maybe even scrape a knee. A self-managed leader has the inner strength to tolerate those wobbles and actually give their team the stage.
Finally, we reach Section 6, the 1% rule, abandoning quick fixes for deep roots. In today's hyper-digital, fast-paced world, it is incredibly tempting to rely on superficial communication hacks, slick little scripts, or quick-fix motivation tactics. But our source material completely warns us against this trap. Why? Well, because techniques might cover you for a day, but your true character will always reveal itself under high pressure. Real leadership is not a cosmetic upgrade. It is all about growing deep roots.
So how do we grow those roots? We use the 1% rule. Just 1%. Stop obsessing over how you can drastically change your team tomorrow. Instead, shift your focus back to the inner ring. How can you optimize your own internal system by just 1% every single day? How can you be 1% more patient, 1% more organized, maybe 1% more present? When you commit to that personal discipline, a really remarkable thing happens. Team trust, respect, and cohesion, they naturally arrive as a byproduct of your own steady growth. Which brings us to the end of our session, and I want to leave you with a question to really ponder. What is one knee-jerk reflex you can manage 1% better tomorrow? Think about that trigger, whether it's the chaotic inbox, getting cut off in traffic, or dealing with a harsh critique, and decide right now how you're going to lead yourself through it. You've been listening to Empower Fantastic Life, Jaeger Empowerment Academy. See you next time. Bye-bye.